Batman 3 Jokers issue 2, Geoff Johns writing, Jason Fabok on the art. And this, of course, is the mystery. We have one Joker who's dead already. Jason shot him last issue. And this issue is Babs trying to talk to Batman about that happening, how to solve the issue, find Jason, stop him from killing any more, find the other 2 Jokers, and so on. And it goes places for sure. So, how did we feel about this?
It definitely feels like the middle chapter of a miniseries, like issues 3 and 4. You know, there's a bit of a lull before it builds back up. So, and that's by design, so you can't be too mad. I will say that for as much as I love Johns, and I could be described as a Johns fanboy, Fabok is really the one that's pulling the weight,
heavy lifting
in this one, because there wasn't a lot of reading in this one. There was a lot of action stuff, and it's Fabok taking care of that, and I dare say it's Gary Frank-esque in some parts.
Oh, as we said that in issue 1.
We said on the first issue.
Yeah, but like to do that over 6 issues, I was skeptical. But to now see it, I say 6. I'm talking page count. You know, there's only 3, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, to do that over this many pages and to keep it makes sense why this took so long, I guess. But yeah, Fabok really shines here.
I'll agree with that.
And the story, like, again, I don't want to say I'm frustrated because this is the middle section, right? Like, but there's not a lot that happens here that moves the story forward. Like, there's a couple things, and there's some stuff I like, but there's other stuff that I wish we've gotten enough of this.
I like the opening. This whole scenario where Joker 2 comes to this house. He's got a wife and a kid, and the wife's scared of him. The kid's scared of him, and he's come and have dinner with daddy and all that stuff, and then. Then it sort of snaps into reality, and the criminal Joker number 1, is like, what the hell are you doing? Who are you talking to? I kind of like this exploration of the delusional mind of the Joker a little bit.
This is the comedian Joker.
Yeah, the idea that he fantasizes about having a family that's scared of him is like delightfully twisted.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Killing Joke Joker. That in that origin, his wife, what is she? Miscarry the kid? Can't have a kid? I can't remember which one.
Something along those lines.
Along those lines. And and if we're believing his telling of the story, this is what kind of leads him to becoming the Joker, being the sad comedian. So I do like that they referenced that in there, that, deep down he does want this family, but it's still dark and twisted. It actually kind of reminded me of something from David Lynch a little bit. Like,
that's just because he's feeding them octopus.
That could be, maybe, right? He likes the tentacles. But no, that was good. But yeah, I can't get a read on the criminal Joker. Like, I don't know, because I'm so used to Joker being so bombastic, and he's so reserved. Like it's
very
it's
subdued.
a bit off. Yeah,
he's your grandfather's Joker, I suppose.
No, literally, like this is what Joker was before.
He says before Batman.
Mm-hmm.
He claims. He claims to be.
He claims, which take that as you will. I'd have to say, obviously, I wasn't like super into the first issue. I think I like this issue less. I think there's just a lot of things I conceptually still that I dislike, but I think this issue, it feels incredibly decompressed to the point where this is 50, 60 pages, something like that, and I'm like, okay.
And there's a lot of sections that I like. I like the conversation Babs and Bruce have where they're both like driving. There's a panel that I thought was particularly great where she's like, her reflections in the window of the Batmobile.
The art is phenomenal. I don't think I really like Bruce in this conversation, where he's just like, no, what are you gonna do?
Bruce is very off.
The dialogue from Bruce is a little bit on the weird side. I don't think that's unfair to say.
But I never thought John's, despite how much I like the Earth One?
Yeah.
Right? The Earth One stuff out of him. His voice for Bruce has never been there for me.
Well, it's notable that Geoff Johns is Mr. DC, and we think of him as being this big DC guy, and everyone always has for a long time. But the one big exception to that is that he's never really been a Batman guy, which is weird when you think of DC. Like typically most big writers who have worked on DC now, they have a Batman run. They care about Batman. And Johns had Superman, he had Green Lantern, he had a Flash run, he had JSA, he had Teen Titans, he had so many different corners of the DC universe, but he never had the Batman run.
No.
So
and he did cool stuff with Batman and like Green Lantern and in Infinite Crisis, but Batman's never been the spotlight to Johns. He's always been a side character, and so that's almost how he's treated here, like a side character. But he doesn't even get anything cool to do. He's just kind of grumpy, and even as someone that's very critical of Batman, like I am, I don't know. It feels tone deaf.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind like this. Treating Batman like a side character. If ultimately your story here was actually about Babs and Jason, I could kind of I can go along with that. It's this like conversations like this where Babs like he's using a gun, he's killing people. We got to stop him. We got to talk to him, make him stop being Red Hood basically. And Batman's like, I thought he was dead. There's not a lot I can do about it. I thought he'd turn out like you. He's very kind of nonchalant. And then we do have we'll get to it in a minute, I'm sure, but the Joe Chill stuff, which ties Batman himself more directly into the story, which, I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Joe Chill's fingerprints show up on a crime scene early in the issue, and it leads them to go to see Joe Chill, who it turns out is actually dying of cancer. And there's no way he could have been at a murder scene like earlier that night. He's in a hospital bed, barely breathing.
Yeah, he's basically in hospice at that point.
Yeah.
But so, I did like seeing Blackgate and seeing some of the hands sticking out. You had
Ripper Thorn,
and Thorn, and that was real cool.
Yeah, there's a lot. I feel like there's some characterization of Batman that's a bit off, but there's a lot of little details here that I do quite like. Where I do like the idea of Batman dealing with Joe Chill passing away or getting sick and like dying. Like there's something interesting to explore there of how does Batman react to him having a natural death, when the time comes. There's definitely avenues for drama that are being prodded at here that are interesting.
Yeah, well, and again, it's not it's a retcon, which is usually Johns' specialty, but it is a inner like struggle with Bruce that he does really well, I think, Johns. So, but yeah, having Joe Chill show back up, that and the Waynes dying, I'm just over it.
Yeah,
we get it. I'm tired of Batman's origin. Like, just move on.
Yeah. Yeah. So Red Hood, through some colorful interrogation, finds his way to where the Joker might be. And he pulls out a crowbar to like break off some chains, and the chains and like the part of the padlock creates a smiley face on the ground.
Honestly, one of my favorite panels in the issue. I think it's very Gary Frank, isn't it? But I don't know. Fabric. I don't think I have a bad word to say about Fabric in this issue. As much as I have problems with the concept, some of the dialogue, the characterization, the art, I don't think I can say a thing bad about it.
We mentioned Gary Frank, but I mean that moment with the smiley face feels legitimately like a Doomsday Clock panel. Like just in concept, it feels like a Doomsday Clock panel.
Well, there's that, and in the story, he's playing right into Joker's hands, so that there's a smile there, and it's pushing the story forward in that way. But then, it's
as much as the smiley face worked in Doomsday Clock because of the button. Of course, it works here because it's Joker. So you can kind of play it both ways.
And Jason finds a pool of people and basically Ace Chemicals toxin, which we knew they were transporting around last issue. And it seems like Joker is ultimately wanting to make one more permanent fourth Joker, but at the very least, he's also creating a bunch of like disposable Jokers right now and here. And the idea that Jason could become the idea that he's Red Hood, so Red Hood becomes a Joker. That's the rules.
I kind of do like that though, but that also might be my Return of the Joker, Batman Beyond showing.
Oh, sure.
I always love that beat.
Well, I don't think it's an accident that I feel like John's here. He knows that exists. He knows people like that story. He knows people care about that story. So this implication here of this is what the Joker's trying to do, I think is playing upon our own experiences with the character.
I think it's kind of interesting knowing that we were all roughly of an age when that was coming out and we were younger and we were watching as kids, and now we are part of the largest audience for comics. We're in that age range, right? Especially right now. I think it's interesting that we've got that coming up here. We got Phantasm showing up in Batcat later in the year or early next year, whenever that is. I can't remember.
I mean, And Batman Beyond itself as a comic ran for what 52 issues, right?
Yeah,
So,
which
like,
is staggering given
which
the
we
state
always
of some of the smaller books in DC
we were
right
always
now.
wondering when the last issue thing was coming in solicit, just because it was like, so clearly people were reading the book long enough that they could keep producing it. But
Yeah.
I really did like this, that he's like, you, out of all of them, you could be my Robin. And I kind of like that sentiment.
This is the weird thing about the story in this, is that while there's elements that are off to like justify certain things, the overall structure or backbone of it I do quite like. I quite like the idea of what it's doing, and I like that it does focus so heavily on Barbara and Jason because they're the ones that have been the most affected in many ways by at least...
their trauma runs deep when it comes to Joker.
I think I like the idea of this, and I like, you know, and the idea of how those are the two that are most affected by it, and those are the two that reacted so differently. Essentially, they dealt with it in very different ways.
Yeah,
I feel like this touches on that, like that conversation between, you know, Babs and Bruce about how, oh, I hope to be more like you, and you know they kind of skirt on how they deal with it differently, but it's not given enough time and dedication to that element, and that's a little bit frustrating for me, given how many pages this is already.
You know, I like the moment where Joker. And it's obviously not the Joker who did it originally, given the premise of this book, but the Killing Joke Joker's bashing him with the crowbar because they've stripped him down and they've put the Red Hood mask on. And I like that he says, you know, you better make sure I stay dead this time. You know, this actually might be outside of Tom Taylor's work, you know, our Lord and Savior, you know, amen, blah, blah, blah.
Patron saint of Mild Fuzz, Tom Taylor.
But, like, outside of that, that's maybe the most I've actually liked them tapping into, like, Jason's story. Is this moment?
There are parts, and I always say there are parts of Jason I like. I hate that since the New 52, I guess, they've tried to make him this edgy anti-hero, and I'm like, Jason works in small doses like this, or even I think when Winnick brought him back in Under the Hood, I think there are parts that work to him, but to try to make him this edgy Punisher-esque, it just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to fit in with Batman. And
there's
the problem is he wants to be they want him to be a Punisher character, and that's okay, but they're not willing to commit to it and go far enough. They still want him to be the good guy at the same time.
Well,
I think the difference is Punisher accepts that no, he's not the good guy.
I think the problem is that they still wanted to have him to be able to be involved with the Bat family, and if he makes the choice to go full Punisher, he can't just casually hang out with Batman anymore, because Batman will have to make the choice to take him in and put him down.
Right.
You know, it's just,
which I like that dynamic though, of him going, "Hey, I learned from you. You're not going to catch me easy."
And that's kind of what this book is kind of getting at. Is Babs is like, no, he's gone too far. We have to take him in. And Bruce is just not wanting to deal with that.
But this is why it doesn't happen though, is because it's one story that has to have an ending. And comics being comics, they can never commit to stuff lasting forever. So we just don't get it. Another little out of character beat for me between Babs and Bruce, when she kicks the door into, because they sort of get to the same place, the swimming pool area, and Batman says we could have entered quietly, and she says if Jason's here, he didn't. And Batman says, point taken. And I'm like, well, what do you mean point taken? If they're busy with noisy Jason, you can still sneak up behind them. Like, what difference does it make if he's already been loud?
I almost feel like this is not Bruce. It's someone dressed as Bruce. He's wearing hockey pads.
That's the real reason why he's got the yellow oval right now.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he does wear hockey pads.
It was one of those little things. It's just a small thing, but I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you can still be stealthy.
That's what frustrates me a lot about this. There's a lot of little moments like that fall into that, you know, kind of just, okay, right? It's just, and it's every, 5-10 pages, which, in 50-60 pages is regular enough that it drags me out of the story repeatedly, just with something small often, but just enough that it irritates me.
They run into the army of zombie Jokers. It's kind of unfortunate this kind of is happy at the same time as Joker War, which also has like zombie-esque Joker type drones, but
I prefer this one though, because it's not some weird gas.
Sure.
It's like, just this standard Jokerizing.
Yeah, like it's part of it.
So they go to find Jason, of course, once they've won the fight. And there's actually a nice moment here where they actually find like a Joker. Not one of the main Jokers, but one of these like modified Jokers, and they actually think it might be Jason for a second, which I thought was an interesting idea. But they find Jason, naked with a mask on, all bloody and beaten, and he's beside himself and he breaks down crying. And then we get to the scene, which is naturally probably going to get a lot of discussion here. I will say I'm going to complain to Matt here a little bit, actually, because Matt intentionally tried to tease this last week, and I kind of just got it from what you said, what was going to happen. I got the implications, so you spoiled this for me. And the problem with that is not that it's not even just that the moment itself is spoiled, because it's obviously not something I like, right? Obviously, I don't like this. The problem is that for the whole issue, I was just waiting for the bad thing to happen because I was expecting something bad. Combined with a couple of tweets, which again didn't outright say what it was, but people try to get really coy. They try to talk about what they're upset about without specifically saying it.
To be fair, this particular rumor has been going around for about a year. We heard about this a long time ago.
I mean, I don't remember that. But it was Matt last week on the show when he was annoyed at me, might I add.
I was.
During Action Comics, specifically.
You poke the bear. When you lose a foot, you can't be mad.
Yes, but in an argument you were wrong on.
No, I was annoyed about you thinking Connor dying was great and hilarious and funny. That's what annoyed me. And the Parasite thing was just icing. The bones of that was the Connor thing. So, and I'll apologize if it did spoil it for you, because I don't want to be responsible for anybody not enjoying.
Well, Joe's funny thing is that because he said there's something I've heard about Three Jokers with Babs and Jason, and you sort of realised that you went too far and tried to add on Bruce as to throw me off. But I was like, I'd already thought about it. It's the second you said those two names, I immediately.
I had to censor myself, so I failed at censoring twice because I almost said it was Killing Joke movie adjacent, and that definitely.
I think just saying Babs and Jason. I do think, Pete, I know you said you don't remember hearing these rumors. I think maybe subconsciously it was in there, and that's kind of why you jumped straight to that. Because there's things about Babs and Jason could have been anything. Still, really.
Yeah.
When it's a book about those, it's not like,
However,
they weren't in the last issue.
The core of the complaint I'm trying to make here, and this isn't all just on Matt, though. There was a couple of tweets that annoyed me in this as well. But is that it kind of gave me this weird thing with the book where even though there was lots of things to like, and there's things to dislike too that we've talked about, the entire time I couldn't even let myself really enjoy it because I was just waiting for the bad moment to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to slightly defend Twitter in this particular instance, whoever these people were who tweeted, because
of course you are.
No, in the sense that they want to talk about it. I get that, when there's something there, and they're trying their hardest to be respectful, right? They're talking around it. They're actively not putting spoilers in it. They're trying. There's only so far
this is
much you can do.
This is going to sound really egotistical, but I'm
shocked.
But you know what? I'm fairly smart. Okay, so when I see people talking around things, I can usually put two and two together without trying too hard.
Right, but are you honestly saying you've never tweeted around anything?
I don't know. I'm not going to claim that.
So I legit thought for a hot second he was talking about me, and I was like, wait, I didn't tweet about Three Jokers.
No, you didn't. You didn't tweet.
Not to. I tweeted about Batman Joker Warzone, and it was pretty amorphous to what I was talking about. So
no, it was
myself
I saw people tweeting.
On Twitter.
It was specifically tweeting about Babs specifically, and it's kind of something I don't necessarily disagree with, which I'm going to get to in a second. We talk about the actual scene and what's going on. But
here's the thing. When I saw that spoiler, because of course I clicked through because you never know if it's actually true.
Also, you have no control.
No, I do most of the time. I do when it comes to certain things. I do like Legion. I specifically I heard something, but I was like, I'm gonna wait till I have the book in my hand.
Yeah, because I tagged you in the fact that there was something that people were talking about.
Which I could play Pete and say, oh well, if you know Legion, you could put this together because it's the one main Legion story, right? But whatever.
To be fair, in the tweet that I tagged you in, there was nothing that it was specifically about Legion's history.
No, but it was pretty big about Legion and Bendis and holy shit. And if anything, it's what I guess it was. Anyways, to this one, it was just a panel, and it was the panel that Pete's gonna digress 20 minutes
on.
The
bottom right panel, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and again, I was like, okay, well, if that's true, I don't know why people are losing their mind over it with no context, because for all we knew in the week before this book came out, was this is a manic event, right? Like, we know something was going to happen with Jason or Barbara. This whole story is about trauma. Who knows what this is? And I saw a lot of people trying to drag Johns for it because they don't like Johns. And again, out of context, I don't think that's fair. I don't think you should try to look at what a writer's doing unless you have the full. And now for Pete, when I know he's going to digress about it, I think that's fair having context now, right? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to sort of dig into. Basically, Jason's passed out at Bab's place. She comes home at one point. He wakes up, he sees like all of her stuff that she was using, all the books. So she kept all of her calendars from when she was in physical therapy, and all yeah, he sees the chair sort of folded up in the corner, and it's this idea that he sees what the Joker put her through, and they kind of are bonding over this, and you start
how
to
different her road was to his, right? Like,
yeah.
His involved Roz and the League in a Lazarus pit, an actual death. Hers was, her being able to be surrounded by those that she cares about to pull through. And I do like that. Like, that aspect's great.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I don't mean that, but it follows up, of course, with them kissing. And she does immediately say, that's a mistake. I was just trying to show that I cared, because clearly Jason feels that no one's ever cared about him, so it's kind of the point. But I think the frustrating thing about this, in a wider meta context, is that Babs now, in the last 5 years, right, through different mediums even, right, but in the last 5 years, right, has had sex with Bruce in an animated movie, has been shacked up with Tim in a video game, right? And,
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, right? And obviously she's always had a history with Dick, which is the one that's normal and we all expect. But after this, I'm like, okay, when is she banging Damien? Because clearly we're heading there at some point. Because it started to feel like, oh, we could just have Babs go around every Bat family member at this point.
At least with Dick, Jason, and Tim, they're all reasonably close in age with Babs.
It's not about
like
age.
Weird, right? No, but I mean, in comparison with Bruce and then Damien at the other end,
that
sure,
would
be weird at both ways.
Right.
But it's not about age. This is not about the inappropriate nature of any of the... any of those three are completely appropriate in terms of context of age and whatever else you want to judge it on.
But when you're talking about the game, and I don't know what game this is, could they not have thrown Steph in there?
Well, that was the weird thing, is that it was Arkham Knight, and it was Tim, and it was this weird thing, and it wasn't like much to the game. It was just like, oh, by the way, in this game's universe, Bab and Tim are a couple instead of Bab and Dick, and that's just.
I think I defended this at the time. I don't mind this. I actually think Babs and Tim are a pretty decent fit.
They're too much alike. There's no way.
No, possibly. I think that I think that is a very fair point to make, that they are very alike. But I think that makes sense to me as to why they'd try it at some point.
But
I don't like Babs being this token girl.
This is the problem. This is Jean Grey in the original X-Men, where every single guy wants to bang her. This is the problem here. Is not the inappropriate nature with any particular character. The problem is that now she's this character who, we need some sort of romance to go on here with one of the Bat family members. Oh, why not use Babs? Babs is the lady. Here, she can be done use for that.
Although here I kind of want to defend it a little bit out of it is a state of shock thing, and it's not like it goes farther than that. If they end up as a couple at the end of the next issue, then I can be upset. But as of right now, they're both, going through something emotionally crippling, having to deal with the idea of three Jokers and which one is the one that's tied to them and all this other stuff. And Jason, getting beat near to death again. So, while I don't like it, again, it's not a deal breaker. Like, I heard people going like, oh, I'm not even going to read the third issue now. And I'm like, well, all right, you do you. I'm not going to argue, tell you have to.
I want to see where it goes. I want to see what it does with this. But
I'm not even really enjoying it that much. But I mean, I've read 2/3 of it at this point. I might as well just get the last one at this stage. And the Fabric art is gorgeous. Like, again, every single complaint I have is conceptual dialogue. There is nothing about the pacing of the art, the storytelling in the art. Just the sheer quality of it is next level.
Yeah.
It is up there as the
Yeah.
best art in DC's had in years. It's up there in that
Would
conversation.
it surprise you that the one issue I have signed by Fabric is a Fabric Poison Ivy?
Not at
Like,
all. That is
no,
completely
right?
on brand.
And I just, and he's come leagues from that. That was from Detective Comics with Layman back during the New 52, you know, and his art from there, as great as it looked then, through Darkseid War and Justice League to now, like, yeah,
Fabric
it's amazing.
has always been a good, like, upper tier artist.
Mhm.
I think it's safe to say this is the best work of his career so far.
Yeah,
Like,
I would
don't
agree
think
with
it's even
that.
close for me.
I agree with
I think
that.
this is just a complete cut above everything else he's ever done that I've seen. Maybe someone will show me something else that I've not read, which is
Yeah.
possible.
Well, to bring this
but for me-
background to the topic we were on, I think the other thing with this that ties into this problem is it's kind of got that TV syndrome where a lot of shows that run too long end up doing this thing where every possible combination of coupling that could happen will eventually happen just because there's no creativity. And
There's got to be a name for that.
there should be a name
I
for
call
it.
it friendzing.
Yeah.
Because by the
Yeah,
end of Friends,
It's Joey and
uh,
Rachel. That's what this is, but
yeah,
even more
it is.
anger-inducing. That's
yeah.
what
Well,
it
it's
is.
even, yeah, because at that point I don't care. Like I care about maybe 4 episodes of Friends. This isn't, Barbara Gordon, who I really care about. You know what I mean? Like
Wait,
by that
what
point on
4
Friends,
episodes?
it's like, yeah, whatever, huh?
What are the 4 episodes?
Oh, let's not talk about Friends.
No,
Jesus
I'm
Christ.
No.
intrigued.
I will say my favorite Friends episode of all time, and it's one I'll watch anytime, is when they're all late, and it's basically a bottle episode to Ross's paleontology dinner, and that one still makes me laugh like a madman. And I don't even like Friends that much, but that's an early, I want to say like season 3.
Yeah.
I just threw out 4 to throw out a thing, but just to show it's not Barbara Gordon, who I do care about as a character. Like
Friends is just the easy example for this because the whole first chunk of the show was about Ross and Rachel, and then you get to this later part where it's like, oh hey, now it's Joey and Rachel for some reason, just because they've ran out of things to do. And a lot of sitcoms are guilty of it, and this kind of feels a little bit like that to me. And then on top of that, again, with this problem where, and again, it's in different mediums. It's not even like it's all been in comic books, but having all these things happen in the last 5 or so years, it starts to take this kind of toll as a whole. And I just kind of feel this laziness with the idea of what to do with Barbara Gordon as a character. And it makes her feel less like her own character and more like a tool that's being used around the other characters. So, yeah, I mean, it's not because, someone I like is with a character I don't like. I don't give a shit. I mean, I do care a little bit, but I'm not angry about that. Like, the anger here is more about how she as a character on her own merits is kind of being used. And I think this might not be a big deal. In hell, for all we know, next issue, this could turn out to all be inside Jason's head because he's a dirty little pervert, and that's fine. But
yeah,
that would almost be more annoying because of the way it's presented, where it's very clearly not, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. I'm just throwing out ideas.
I didn't know this about Babs and Tim in the game, because had I known that, then it would definitely color the opinion. I'd probably be a little bit more annoyed when I first read this, but this is just like, oh, this is a mistake like Pete's talking about.
In context of that game, I don't think she was ever with Dick. That was never a relationship. It was always
but Connor, but still
I get
the medicines of it though is what's frustrating.
Yeah.
Especially when there's other characters that they could pull from. They don't have to have Barbara Gordon in that game. It could have easily been Steph and Tim.
To be fair, Barbara was quite important in that game. Steph just
Tim is the weird one because Tim, he just happened to be the Robin in the game, and it was this sort of thing. They just sort of tacked it on so they could have in the epilogue at the end to say, hey, they're happy together now, happily ever after. There wasn't much to it.
Kind of a nothing thing, really.
But it was just a weird thing that stuck out.
In the grand thing, it is something that sticks with me now. That's the first 3 Robins, and like, come on, Johns, you're better than that.
So far, we're only at 2 of them in comics.
Yeah.
And comics, but I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
So it's just it's one of those things that's really unfortunate, and so no, I don't like this turn of events, and I will. It's not as bad as I thought because of the way it was been hinted at. I was almost expecting a Killing Joke movie scene with them on a rooftop or something. I was
still the worst moment in any DC animated film.
Oh, easily. He'd had me watch that with zero context to see how upset I got.
Well, the movie or just that scene?
No, the movie. He goes, go ahead, watch Killing Joke. It's decent. And then when I got to that point in the movie, I go, you son of a bitch. How dare you? Yeah.
Why? Why would you do that?
Then his reasoning was, I had to see it, so now you have to too.
Yes.
Feel my anger. And then we did a review on it.
The annoying part of that is that the movie after that like new half-hour chunk wasn't too bad. It was a decent adaptation of the book. But the problem is that romance element they added in completely changes the tone of so much of what's in the original story. I think technically Babs was with Bruce in the Lego Batman, but that's very different. And she was much like, very different version of Babs.
That's not the Barbara Gordon we know.
She was like Police Commissioner Barbara Gordon at that point.
Actually,
it's completely different.
In Titan season 3, they're having Barbara Gordon, but she's going to be the commissioner, so she's going to be older than Dick. Is this going to be the one where she's like been dating Alfred? Is that what they're going to do with this? Even Alfred gets a turn. You know? See the problem with this?
Yeah, it's the least they can do before they send him off.
I'll just, it would be nice.
Is she still Batgirl in that universe?
In Titan?
Do we not know yet?
I don't know if we know.
I don't keep up with the Titans news.
I do. I just know she's commissioner in season 3.
No, I'm really disappointed at how much I dislike that show, because I learned that Hill is like one of the main writers on it.
Oh, that's a shame.
And I'm like, oh man, I thought I liked.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
Usually.
Yeah, it's not that show.
Huh.
But hey, so how's this end? Oh yeah, they've got Joker's got Joe Chill.
Joe Chill.
Yeah, that's right.
This end.
Yes.
And then
again, I don't like.
I groaned at this last page. Why did you really kill Thomas and Martha Wayne? No, stop this. Don't need any more bullshit explanations.
I want Joe Chill to go, I needed money for my family, and it was an accident. And then Bruce hugs him, and Joker goes, that's not how this is supposed to work, and then kills Joe Hill.
Hey,
that's the
imagine
not Joe Hill. You leave Joe Hill alone.
If this book has the audacity, and I mean that in a good way, to have Batman forgive Joe Chill, you know what? It's done something ballsy that I can respect.
That's what I'm saying. That's the only way that they get out of it without me starting off grumpy on the next issue. Because of the way this left me. I got the end of this.
Groaned at this last page. I was like, oh, not this shit again.
No, I was reading this before bed, and I had the light still on. I told Ashley when I'm done, I'll shut off the light. And then not that I threw it down, but I gave an annoyed
slam the light switch.
I put the book away. She goes, what? I go, I don't even want to talk about it. She goes, they kill the Waynes again. I go, no. So I read this first just to get it out of the way and thinking there might be something in this that annoys me, so I want to make sure something afterwards makes me feel better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chip.
It was a good plan. It was the right call.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
Stand by it.
Put that on the trade.
Oh.
Read this first, so then your day's not ruined. Connor.
Read something else after this.
Oh, okay. So I guess we're gonna get to rating it then.
Yeah, I suppose we are. I mean, it gives a lot to talk about, if nothing else. I'll give it that. Okay. Matt, what are you giving Three Jokers issue 2?
So this is a weird one because the story, while it wasn't bad, it was really decompressed, but the art is really, really, really good. So I want to give it a 7, but I think that might be too high. But the art, I think, justifies at least 6 of that. So yeah, I'll go 7.
Connor?
For context, I checked. I gave the last issue a 5.5. And this one I like less because of its pacing as well as the ideas. So I'm going to give this one a 4.5, and like 4 of those points are for Fabric.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go with a 6.5 on this. Obviously, there's some ideas I don't like, particularly towards the end, but there's a lot of ideas that I do like, and I do think, as we've mentioned, the art is extremely very good. It feels like it has the production value of, like, the story's a bit flawed, obviously, but if this was a movie, this is something that's had like $300 million spent on it to look immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the script's a little bit off in some of its ideas. So, yeah, there you go, 6.5 for me.